Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 22nd. I was looking at Twitch, sorry, 22nd edition of the board game design Cuppa. I'm your host, Matthew Dunstan, coming here from less than sunny Prague. We've had quite a few storms overnight and probably still going to have some storms today. But I hope you're all well on this Wednesday, the 14th of July. How is everyone doing this morning? Yeah, I've been just trying to survive the heat. It's been a bit warm over the last couple of days, so I haven't been as normally productive as I might hope on the board game design front. But yeah, it's a lot better now. So hopefully I can press on with a few things today. Yeah, it's I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be talking about today. There's a couple of topics in my mind. Of course, I'm sure everyone's been seeing. Well, if you're sort of plugged into the board game industry or looking on Twitter, you know, there's a big problem right now with sort of manufacturing and shipping, more about shipping realistically in the board game industry, and a lot of publishers are really getting stuck with, you know, product that's effectively stuck in China. Morning, Nicola, how are you going? Morning. And now, you know, being asked to pay sort of exorbitant prices to even get their games into a shipping container and either to the US or to the EU or elsewhere. And yeah, I don't have exactly a. I mean, as a designer, I'm a little bit removed from that, but it's interesting to try and well, just to work, you know, like seeing it from afar, but also I guess trying to guess how it might impact. You know, it doesn't impact me necessarily directly, but of course, the games I'm hoping of mine that'll be released next year, you know, it's a bit tricky. Morning, Taylor. How you going? Doing pretty well. Had an early but promising first place a few hours back. Oh, great. Oh, yes, you're in the US, right? So I was like, a few hours back, I was asleep. I'm very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for asking. Hi, Peter, and it's nice that Peter's joined. Peter's another game designer from the Czech Republic, Betic 92. We had our first, and morning Rory as well, had our first in-person playtesting session so there's a board game cafe here in Prague called Bohemia Boards and Brews, run by a friend of mine, who actually is the co-designer of a game that we've just signed or in the process of signing. We're negotiating about the contract now. So he's a game designer as well, but we met at Essen. Anyway, but he lets us have our bi-weekly game design meetups in the board game cafe. But of course, the cafe has been closed for quite a while. So this was the first time back in a good while, actually, in like many, many months, probably at least 9 months, I would say. So yeah, it's sort of crazy to think about that in a way. But yeah, we had a really good. It was a really nice playtesting session, and Peter was there, and Doug, who's the owner of the cafe, and a couple other people. But played a few games. I got to play so for those who watched last week, I showed off this sort of new polyomino kind of engine building kind of game, and got to play it in person with 3 other people, which was really nice. And I think generally the feedback was generally pretty good. It's interesting. I think it's, you know, as always with feedback, you have to filter things, you know, what's relevant and what's not, but also it kind of just reveals different people's preferences. I mean, and that's, you know, people have to respond to what they like or not. And it's interesting that actually it was kind of nice because I think the general, you know, foundation of feedback was positive. And then there were like some people who wanted like a bit more going on. Some people were happy with the amount that was going on, or it could even be a little bit simpler. But that's all about, I think, you know, different players have different preferences for different sort of complexity in their games and things like that. So that actually reflects more on me having to make the choice about what, you know, what complexity I want for the game. And I have to talk to Brett about that soon, and you know, sort of, you know, and also what Brett would like, as you know, I can't just make all the decisions for myself. Thanks very much, Peter. Thank you for playtesting. We also got to playtest one of Peter's games that he made with a group, like a real, like a true tabletop game jam, you know, over a weekend to fully manufacture a game, which is kind of incredible. So he had the box for the game. It was really, you know, nice cards and tokens and things, and that had all been made in a weekend, designed, you know, artwork, printing, you know, making the box and everything like that, which was really, really cool. So yeah, and the game was fun. You know, it's a bit rough, I guess, because it's a little bit earlier on in its design life, but that was good. So yeah, it was nice to sort of get back into that that swing of things. And I think, you know, it's definitely preferable to any sort of online playtesting. Realistically, it's difficult to have that same kind of. I mean, it's just not for me. You know, I think playtesting is all the reason I enjoy designing. I think in playtesting, or what makes playtesting palatable is that it's a social event, I guess. Hey Rob, how you going? Welcome. And yeah, the virtual thing just never quite was social in the way that an in-person playtest could be. So yeah, but anyway, so that was really nice to be able to get back into that swing of things. And yeah, I think I'll have to probably think about ways to try and slowly schedule more and more playtesting sessions. I remember Eric Lang, I think it was Eric Lang, you know, once said that, you know, when he was sort of in full-time mode, and I guess he is still in full-time mode, but, you know, things change with the pandemic, but, you know, he would have, I think, you know, 2 or 3 playtesting sessions at his house that he'd host, you know, to just get through all the games he was working on. And I'm not quite at that level, but it's funny, like yeah, it's the thing that you really get behind on, you know, that's the only way you move games forward, by playtesting them, and that's often the thing that's most difficult to do. So yeah, but anyway, so that'll be the thing to look at more playtesting options, or yeah, hosting some things here or something like that. I'm just going to see if there's enough willing participants, of course, which is the thing. And also just making physical copies of prototypes. So, you know, it actually took me a while to, you know, again, like you make a game in Tabletop Simulator, and it's this, you know, it's not easy necessarily, but, you know, it's very easy to make lots of polygons. I can just make tiles that fit together and things like that. But then when you actually have to make the physical thing, well, I'm, you know, cutting out, you know, 100 tiles or whatever. So yeah, we got there, but it was, yeah, it was funny. I haven't even been doing that for a while. I haven't made a physical prototype for a while. So yeah, I guess slightly nostalgic for everything. Yeah, so that's great. Hey Jay, how you going? Welcome. Yeah, so what has everyone else been up to, I guess, over the past week? The Rory, who may be in the chat, we're still chatting about various nefarious plans for the future, and I'm sure we'll have something to announce if we ever get to that point. But it's looking really promising. I don't want to say more, but we're looking at, yeah, like I think a different style potentially of publishing games or something like that, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, maybe I'll have Rory on sometime and we'll discuss it on the stream. Taylor, oh, thank you very much. I'd very happily have you. Yes, but we are a little bit far away, unfortunately. Jay had to sleeve 90 cards yesterday, was one short. Don't you just hate that? I hate more that I don't think I'm short of sleeves generally, but sometimes like having the same style or the same color, I do randomly sort of run out. Or I have lots of black. I think at some point I decided I'm just going to buy lots of black sleeves because that's just kind of the easiest thing. But unfortunately, like I have a few different brands and they're so similar. But you know, this is like a game designer and a Magic player problem. But you could have 2 sleeves that look very similar, but when you shuffle them, if they're just a little bit different, that can step out a bit, which is a bit annoying. But I feel your pain. Taylor released a public version of the solo mode for my Stonewall game the other day. Excited to get feedback on that as it comes in. Oh, fantastic! Congrats. Do you have is it? I guess it's on your Twitter. Is it, Taylor? Or yeah? Because if you have a link, feel free to share it. I'll try and look up. Yeah. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so it's a Steam. I'll bring it up here. Share. This screen, maybe just a tab. Yeah. So this is it here. So anyone so it's a Steam link, and I can put that in the chat if anyone's interested in checking out the solo mode for like the solo thing for Stonewall Uprising. Well, that's fantastic. I'm really glad to hear it, Taylor. No, I hope you can get some. I will leave that open and have a check it out myself as well. Yeah, no, it's funny. I have memories of a club in Sydney, which was called Stonewall as well on Oxford Street, and one of the very early LGBTQ clubs in Sydney. So yeah, obviously named after the more famous Stonewall uprising, but it's interesting to get that. Okay, I can stop that. We could Rory say we could bore everyone with box chat. Yeah, we're sort of, because we're looking at sort of different these. Like, it's the first time I'm, and probably Rory as well, looking at things like manufacturing, not exactly manufacturing, but sort of like, you know, components and packaging and things like that. And it's definitely a different kind of world to sort of be looking for. Rob's here for the board, and excellent. Rob is something. I need to make a load of physical prototypes now, lots of cards. I should make more cards that are just a board of wooden components. Would work better virtually too, ironically. That's true. I really like card games, but like I just designed a short. Actually, I actually have a physical copy of this because I made it. But you know, it's just this card game, and you're making potions, and they have. Whoops, that's not a very good example, but you know, making potions with different ingredients and things. It's just a deck of cards, you know, like about 100 cards. And the funny thing was, it's almost unplayable on Tabletop Simulator because it's just one of these simple, like, you know, card drafting games. Put out a display of cards, you've got a hand of cards, but like dealing with like more than a certain number of cards in your hand and like seeing cards, it's strange how difficult it's manipulated. Of course, and in real life, it's actually probably easier, I think. But yeah, they're the styles of games that I'm always going to make. But yeah, I feel your pain. I definitely used to be when I was leading up to Essen, and we would be, you know, we'd have like, I don't know, 5 new games or something to be showing, and you want to make, you know, maybe 2 or 3 copies of each. And especially when, you know, one of those games might have been like a game which was 120 cards or something, and maybe each of them, you know, so you're starting to print and cut out like 400, 500 cards all before it. It was all a bit much. And for some reason, I really like cutting them out by hand, like with scissors, even though I know I should use a guillotine or something like that. But it was getting to a point where I was questioning my past decisions and thinking, well, maybe I should actually just try to, you know, maybe I should, excuse me, that I should try and just do it with, yeah, to actually get a guillotine to make it easier. Sparkling conversation, I know, for everyone here. But yeah, it's yeah. So it's been I guess I've it was interesting the last few weeks on this. It's you know, I've always had this sort of not hot button topic, but I feel like there's been these sort of topics going around. But yeah, I guess the other one that that I chatted a little bit on Twitter and had a few conversations with folk about was about Dice Tower. I'm sure quite a few people saw the Dice Tower kind of Kickstarter rundown and how they so Play for Keeps. So they're a UK sort of independent publisher. Their first game of Mandela's, who sometimes comes by the chat. I haven't seen him today yet. Called Overstocked. I believe it's called Overstocked. It was on Kickstarter, and they did this rundown. And unfortunately, they look at the page while they're talking. It's sort of a live stream, and the page, part of the page just didn't load. There were some images and some like GIFs, I guess, that showed the gameplay, but they didn't load. And when they looked at the thing, it just looked blank, just because the page hadn't loaded. But then the Dice Tower kind of unloaded on them, saying, you know, that it's terrible, and, you know, how can you not show gameplay, and blah 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 blah. So, and that was a real pity. And I was only alerted to it because, you know, people on Twitter, you know, pointed out this problem, and Tom did apologize afterwards, but it got me thinking, and I guess started making me put things into words that I'd been already thinking a little bit, because it's not just the Dice Tower. There have been more and more of these kind of like, you know, like quick sort of like, they're just content creators making content around like Kickstarters that are launching, that are giving quick opinions about it, and that's fine. And I maintain everyone should make, you know, the content that they want to make. I don't think, and there's room for all different types of content. I guess I was just more talking about things like tone and how you can be. I think you can say that something looks, you know, like you're not going to back it, or it has X, Y, and Z as problems, but you can do that with a level of like kind of, you know, like kind of professionalism, I guess, without being mean. Maybe this, I don't know, maybe this all sounds a little bit like school children kind of thing, but you know, I love that the tabletop industry can be really is generally a really friendly place. Actually, I think it's a fairly friendly, welcome community. I've been, of course, I'm kind of privileged and being lucky enough to not experience the more difficult side, and that's not to say that there aren't. There are problems, but on the whole, it's not so bad. But yeah, just seeing things like this was, yeah, I just wonder whether it's necessary. And I know it's part of the, it's part of the entertainment factor of things, and people enjoy like a hot take kind of thing. But I just wonder if there's a balance to be had in all of that, especially with smaller independent creators. I think the other thing that actually came out, and this was with a discussion somebody else on Twitter, that I hadn't really thought about until it was prompted by something that they said. The problem with Kickstarter right now, or where Kickstarter has sort of come to, is that we don't, it sort of homogenizes publishers, I think, to a certain degree. Kickstarter is this one platform, and all types of publishers put projects onto the platform, and they're all in the same format, and you have the same kind of structure and etc. But like the people behind those projects are so different. You're from like one person, truly indie, like Travis Hill. I'm thinking of Travis Hill, for example, also had a sort of a difficult time with the Dice Tower. Like one person making a game, basically by hand, and another one is Gavin Burnham, I think, of Cubico Games. I'm not sure if anyone knows Cubico Games. That Gavin makes these beautiful games out of wood. He literally can only make 30 games a year or something, which he kind of immediately sells out at Essen, because he literally has to make them on his weekends in his workshop. But you go from there all the way up to other people who are doing crowdfunding. I mean, even Hasbro's done crowdfunding, albeit not on Kickstarter, on their own sites. But there's just such a difference in terms of like the people, the resources, the time that can go into these projects. But from a consumer's point of view, they all look the same. Like the creators are somewhat kind of like invisible in a way, or they're sort of homogenous. And I think that's really tough. I think it's really tough for indie, and I think I would love to see content creators kind of acknowledge that somehow, or I'm not sort of saying having different categories, but I think sort of factoring that in a little bit, because I still hope that Kickstarter can be this way that a more diverse set of people and new creators can make games. And I think that's always great. I think new creators will make the most interesting things, or more on average, because they're trying new things, and that's great. And I think we need more of that. And that's exactly, Kickstarter is good for that. But it's just hard if they're being judged on the same level as like these much larger publishers. And I know like even most tabletop publishers aren't actually that much bigger than that, but there is also still a difference between like, just in terms of like catalog and like revenue and things like that, is still can be quite different between creators. So, but yeah, anyway, that was an interesting kind of set of thoughts sort of coming through on that. And I mean, I'm not completely sort of I have games on Kickstarter, and you definitely see that different publishers have different resources that they can allocate to those kind of projects and things like that. So yeah, sorry, I missed a lot of chat. Should use the tool you should use is the one that works best for you. Oh yes, talking about the guillotine. That's true. I think there's also a bit of a question of like, I'm sure that I could get used to using something else, and it might be better for me in the long run. But no, it's a good point. There's not much should in here. Rob says, I'm not planning on doing serious pitching this summer, so not needing multiples of prototypes right now, but do need prototypes for several games. Yeah, no, that's true. And it's kind of interesting also, like, that I think pitching is probably going to lag behind. What I mean is that, like, I will probably do physical play testing, but I don't know, actually, I probably might not pitch to publishers in person this year still. So it's going to be this funny thing where I'm sure like a physical prototype will be kind of progressing and iterating. And then at some point, I'm going to have to go back to Tabletop Simulator to pitch it. And I'm going to have to update it there, even though I'm not playtesting it there, which will be a kind of a funny thing. But anyway, it's fine. It's the way it is. Yeah, no, I'm glad for the love of stocks. And yeah, I don't know. Hold on, let me check. Maybe they might have a late pledge if anyone's interested. The stocks. I'm just going to check. I don't know if they do. You can follow along, but it doesn't look like you can. Yeah, I don't think you can. Yeah, you can't pledge. So anyway, yes, it does get clicks. No, I appreciate it. I can't. I mean, I kind of make content, I guess, when I stream, but I'm not that worried about, it's not, I'm not trying to get lots of clicks or anything. So I can appreciate it must be difficult as well, but I guess that's why I value, I think, creators who have managed to, I always think of, like, no pun included, F. Current Lane. I think, what they do is incredible. And, Space Biff, Dan Thoreau, like, these sort of things I think are fantastic. I think they're very popular, but they do it in a kind of respectful and thoughtful way, which I quite like. Yeah, I love Gavin's games. Yeah, oh, you have a wood version of QE. Yeah, so I have a funny story about QE. Actually, I pledged for the Kickstarter of QE. I love the game, but then I completely forgot about it, and unfortunately it went into it was also when I was moving to Prague, and went into it went into my spam or something. I completely missed it for months and months and months, and I missed the shipping, basically. So I kind of contacted them, and I know never got a response, and I don't really expect it. It was sort of my fault, but it's just a bit of a pity that, that these copies are somewhere sitting for me. But yeah, I'm sure I hope they sold them or something, and maybe I'll be able to get a copy. But yeah, I love QE. I would like to get a copy of it. I only have one of Gavin's physically. I've got Jam Sumo, the kind of dice flicking game, which is a lot of fun. Yeah, Gavin's a great designer. Actually, I should have him on sometime. I wonder if he'd come on the stream. He's not someone who does like lots of interviews necessarily, but he's sort of such an interesting designer in that I think, like, I consider myself a designer who in some ways feeds off the whole hobby. Like, I get a lot of energy by looking at what are the latest trends, what are games coming out, what's going on here, what could this publisher do, why, what about this mechanism. But like Gavin's so the opposite of that he's kind of removed from the hobby in a way that he doesn't keep up with what's going on. He doesn't play lots of games necessarily, but he has such a great mind for game design, actually, without all that, kind of all that like stimuli from like the board game hobby kind of crowd. He obviously has stimuli from other parts of his life, but I think that it's always, for me, it's quite fascinating because it's such a different approach, which is really great. Rob says, apart from the discomfort of being bad-mouthed by people like Dice Tower, do you think that the attention can be useful? In the cases I know about, like Travis's game and Overstock, there was a swell of social media support backlash, which seems to help the projects. Yeah, I mean, I think they did well. Like, I mean, in the end, yes, it helped, but I think that, I guess what I'm thinking about is I have a feeling there are probably other projects that, for whatever reason, didn't get that kind of like social media support. Like maybe the potentially the creators missed it. They didn't see the video potentially, so they didn't like make it, like they didn't draw attention to it, or for whatever reason. So you just sort of, it's more, yeah, obviously in these specific areas, you want to help out your friends, but it's you kind of want to just make sure it doesn't happen to other creators, I guess, other smaller creators, that it might have negatively impacted them without them even knowing, which I think is a bit tough. And I think it's just generally, I think it would be great to have more support for, I mean, like a bit like I'm talking about Gavin. And I think to a certain extent, Travis Hill is a little bit the same. He, again, is kind of attached to the hobby, but it comes from a different background, more of an RPG style background. I love creators like that, and I want them to feel welcome in the hobby, and actually to find an audience, like new audiences who don't know about them, and like these big content creators have a chance to do that. I know it's not their job. Their job is to make content, but they could possibly do both, and that would be really great. Hey, oh yes, this is Anthony. Anthony, right? Is Goblin from Play for Keeps, the Overstock. Congrats on the campaign, by the way, Anthony. And there will be a pledge manager down the line. Fantastic, great. So yeah, do let me know, and I will definitely plug it on the stream. So yeah, when that happens. Roy says, maybe it's rose-toted hindsight, but I feel like I enjoyed game design more when I wasn't as close to what was going on in the industry. Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably, like when you get close to the industry, that can also mean you're kind of doing the jobs that are less interesting, right? Because often the things close to the industry, are like signing contracts or dealing with shipping or like it's not the fun stuff, especially if you're like a game designer, if that's what you enjoy, because game design in some ways is the furthest part away from the industry. Like if you think of like the kind of flow through. So yeah, I think it's kind of inevitable, actually, or even like the first time you get a game published, when you go through that process, you just have to do things you're not as interested in, I think. And so, of course, I think when you're just designing for the whim of it in some ways, or like with the dream of getting published, possibly, but you haven't had to kind of come to terms with that reality. I think it can feel very free and very open. And I do miss that, but I try and rekindle it where I can, and you realize that you just have to, I hopefully recognize those moments where I am kind of designing something new and I'm feeling like, I can do anything, and what about this? And it's all kind of flowing, and realizing that those are precious moments, I guess, and making the most of them. But knowing that, and especially for me, obviously, like I'm trying to make a living out of it. So, I can't be too, I can't be too annoyed with the fact that it feels a bit like work, because it does, the moment you're trying to make money of things, that's how it goes. Not to say I don't enjoy that. Yeah, exactly. And hopefully I think for me, it also comes down to, as long as I keep working with people I enjoy working with, that makes it kind of all a lot easier. I think that's the thing that seems common in all my kind of places of employment, regardless of what I was doing as a job. The fact that I could work with, people I enjoyed working with, I think that's one of the most important things. Rob says it really sucks when you get to know the rest of us. Yeah. If only I could. Why did I start a stream which just brings all these people together that I really hate hanging around with? Yes. All right. Well, no, but we're all friends here, though. But it's I think, just what I was like saying with playtesting as well. I think that's for me a huge positive, that it's generally a quite personable and sociable industry, or I've been fortunate enough to kind of experience that side of things. So yeah, I definitely can't complain. So that's been really, really cool. But if anyone's got any questions or any comments or things, I could rename it as Matthew's rambling hour or something like that, potentially. I was lucky enough, Teresa brought me a cup of tea. Thank you very much, Teresa. She's got her headphones on, so I don't think she can hear me. But I was very fortunate. I hope everyone has a nice hot beverage or other. Does anyone know, actually, there's enough, if any tea drinkers here, I always have this myth of like actually drinking tea in hot weather is actually a good thing. But does anyone know if that's, I've been, because I think I was surprised even last week when it was quite warm, I still kind of need my cup of tea, even if it's like 30 degrees. I just don't know. And my father is like this as well. Like, he lives in Australia, has always lived in Australia. And he drinks, a cup of tea every morning and afternoon. And like, obviously he does it still in summer. Like, it's like 35 degrees or something, 36 degrees. I don't know if anybody knows anything about that, but anyway, random. Matthew's morning meandering musings, the quadruple M, 4M, not like that other 3M. They weren't that popular or interesting. Morning, Mandela. Your ears must have been burning. We were chatting a little bit about Overstock and everything. Congrats on the campaign being successful. But we were talking a bit about obviously the things that had gone on. But I'm glad that it was successful in the end. How are you going, Mandela? Yeah, I feel like we haven't chatted for a while. So, but I hope you're well. Hope you're working on some interesting. How's the game going with Fabio? I am intrigued. Pedro has a question. I would be interested in you sometime talking about designing the game and then seeing the final product. I have 2 published games and 3 more coming. And yes, so we saw Pedro's most recent game. Do you have a link to it, Pedro? Have they got it on the LB website? If you've got a link, can you drop it in and I'll show it. I have 2 published games, 3 more coming. But every time me and Yindra, so Yindra is a co-designer of Pedro's, did all the game design, art, prepare print files, lay down the rulebooks and everything. But I guess it might be different when you make a game rules and leave the rest up to the publisher. I see. So yeah, like what's the kind of how does it feel designing a game and then sort of handing it off and having someone else doing everything else? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. We can. I'm glad. Oh, we have a link. How do I? The funny thing, of course, is I don't actually know how to copy from a link in chat, which is quite funny. But everyone have it to talk amongst yourselves. Oh, okay. That was easy to find. Let's just do share. Sorry, Mando, I didn't know if I should have teased or not, but no, it's really cool. I got to play test it once. A bit of a brain burner, but very intriguing. Yeah, so this is Petta's new game, Boston Space. It's from Albi, which is a Czech publisher, and it looks really, really cool. I actually haven't. I came to the playtesting group kind of later in things, so I never got to actually playtest it. But yeah, as I said, Petta and Ninja really did everything, like in terms of like production and art and things, and Albi are kind of like the final, kind of in part funding it. But like they did a lot more than myself, for example. Usually I design a game, and then obviously the publisher does all the art and graphic design and things about manufacturing and all these sort of things. So yeah, I'm just seeing if I can find more photos of stuff to show it off to everyone. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hopefully playing it soon. Yeah, no, it looks really, really cool. And this is like, I think the board setup and different powers and things. Yeah, so no, I could talk a little bit about that, certainly. For me, I guess you're talking about, I guess, how it feels or something like that. I mean, it's not a complete spoiler because the best publishers will do it kind of in collaboration with you. Like they'll give you regular information about what's going on. They'll let you even like kind of test it. They'll ask for feedback, whether that's on the rules or the layout of the rules or the choice of artists. Sometimes even publishers have asked me, is there an artist that you're interested in, or we're thinking of these 2 or 3 artists. What do you think about them? They send links to their portfolios and things like that. The best publishers, they kind of take you along for the ride, so you're never kind of like surprised, and you do have some input in the process. For me, it's kind of interesting because I actually actively do not trust my own sense of like graphic design or art. I mean, I know if I like art or not, but if you gave me a blank box and said, make the art or choose art for it, I would not trust my own instincts. I'm not really I know I'm not talented in that way at all, and I don't even think I have very good taste necessarily. I think Teresa might agree that I don't have very good taste, which is fine, and that's fine. That's just me. So I'm actually quite happy to kind of leave it to the professionals. To be honest, I think they'll do a better job, and as much as like you never know what the right decision is completely, right? We all just try and make the best guess and make the best product we can and hope that it matches the market. It doesn't always happen, but it's not like it's not like you can ever really know. So yeah, on that side, I'm really happy to leave it to the publishers. And that's why I think for me, the biggest thing is about choosing the publisher. And it's choosing publishers that you feel are going to do a good job, that you can sort of trust with that process. I don't really have that many problems with like control. I don't mind kind of giving up control. I think that probably came from the fact that I've never made a game where I had complete control. So for me, it's just completely normal. I can imagine if you're used to kind of self-publishing and then suddenly you give a game to a publisher to work on, it can feel a bit strange because you're used to having that control and now you don't. But for me, it's always been that same way. So for me, it's just sort of natural, and I'm very used to it, and I appreciate it because you get to bring together people with different talents, really, like talents in production or talents in graphic design or artists or editing and things like that. And I think the game is better for it. So yeah, I really believe in that. And I think, yeah, I think it makes the game better. And yeah, I wouldn't trust myself to do it anyway. So I'm quite glad. And the same for development of the game. I think it's always better to have an external developer on the game. And yeah, and then as I said, it sort of comes down to choosing publishers, and I think that's a bigger topic. And it's sort of funny. It is the thing that comes up. Yeah, it's the thing I never really know. And I've tried to be. It's sort of weird. The last couple of weeks, I'm not sure if I've talked much on it. I mean, it's strange. I'm not. It's always a bit weird talking about things publicly. I'm never sure about talking about things publicly. And you realize that you do have a small bit of power as a designer. You do have some information about the industry, and it's how you kind of share that and make use of it. And it is interesting that there are publishers that I am very vocal in recommending. I'm not necessarily very vocal in saying the ones that you shouldn't work with, but a lot of the time those recommendations come from the fact of how well they deal with all that, production and taking your idea to the final product and how you feel they did it. And you get a very varied kind of, ability level, I think, and publishers put different kind of effort into it, I would say. Peter asks, do you still feel excitement when a finished game of yours arrives? Yeah, that's a good question. It's not the same. It's not the same. I remember, I still very, very clearly remember opening up my first box, of Relic Runners, my first published game, and that was extremely special. I mean, it was also, looking back, actually still probably one of the best productions of any of my games ever since. I started, with Days of Wonder, I started with a bang. I was very lucky. But even if it had been a smaller game, it still would have been very special. So it's not quite the same. I think, and it also, the other funny thing is that I think it just takes so long sometimes. I think that's a little bit of a different thing as well. When you finally get a copy of a game, that it's not even necessarily that it can take a long time from, like, say, signing a game to, like, working on the art or blah, blah, blah. But right now there's just so many delays on, shipping and everything, and for various reasons that, like Spy Connection is maybe a good example, came out earlier this year, and I got the copy of the game and it's great and I enjoyed playing it. But there was a certain amount of excitement lost because I worked on that game actively, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. So my head's just in a different place, I think. But I think I still feel it from time to time. And there's a couple of games that I'm really excited to turn up, like this Echoes game with Ravensburger, which I'm hoping I will get some copies soon. They're already for sale in Germany, so I'm hoping I'll get a copy soon. And I think some of that excitement will come back because that's a bit of a new thing. But yeah, it does change. But that's fine. That's I think. I hope I won't completely lose it. I think the other thing also that I guess with the lockdowns is it's a bit hard to share it with people. Like, I think I'm not sure if it's a particularly selfish thing, but I think one thing I really want to do going forward, if this is my career and my life, is I want to make sure when I get a new game to have a bit of a party or even just a small event where I play the game with some other people and just kind of remember, like, it's not just this like commercial product that it's probably given me a lot of stress in some ways along the way trying to get it here. And just to remember, like, yeah, like this is cool. This is a cool achievement. You did this. Enjoy that. Like, kind of just to make sure you don't lose the moment, or you make a moment of something. Because I've said also too on the channel, like, designing in some ways is a solitary pursuit, and if you don't celebrate it, then nobody will. So I'm hoping, obviously, when right now pandemic changes all this, but when it gets like a bit normal to kind of schedule, like, have a small little party and celebrate the release of this game and actually play it with some friends and enjoy doing that. So that's what I'm hoping to do more in the future, I guess. Mandela has a question. Thank you very much for the question, and thanks for all the questions. And morning, Alex. How are you going? Welcome. Have you ever taken time out and made a concerted effort to explore a new discipline to help you design, graphic design for prototypes, psychology, etc.? Short answer is no. I think I have at different points tried to have a look at a few graphic design things, but that's a little bit more about using programs and like layers in Adobe Illustrator or things like that. That's more just improving, I guess, my technical part of making prototypes and things. But I haven't really looked at new discipline. But it's a really interesting question because I do wonder whether there would be. I mean, I'm very interested in graphic design generally. I don't know. There was a video or something about like talking about art or like how we're educated about art in school, and that there's something wrong is that like that everybody can draw. It's basically this concept that everybody can draw, but unfortunately with children at some point are told that they can't, and so they sort of, you get put in this camp like, I'm not an artist, I can't do art, or you can. And I definitely was in the camp of like, I can't do this, and I don't know where that came from in the process. And I guess it's sort of always sort of made me think like I can't really do all this graphic design-y kind of stuff. But graphic design is something that I would love to. One thing I really want to do, actually, sharing my hopes and dreams with the channel, is to try and do some like kind of artwork or but to kind of cross a little bit of like scientific things. So people could have a look up. There's a thing called the Voronoi tessellation, which is basically a way of separating space into like nodes and polygons. And I'd love to cross that kind of algorithm with maps. with like real maps, because I think it can look really, really cool. I'd love to do it for like public transport systems for cities and kind of like make posters. And that would be maybe trying out some graphic design. So that's like if I was to take some time off and try something, I would probably do something like that. And it would definitely help, I think, having a broad set of skills in different areas. I think the other thing I just try and do is get interested in other things. Like I tried to do some knitting. I still hope that I'm going to get back and do some more knitting. And I think that's also valuable in terms of sort of like broadening your skill set. So yeah, I don't know if has anyone else got a particular like discipline that they feel comes from like a different, that isn't game design, but that helps inform their game design. Does anyone have that? I'd be interested to know. Jay asks, what kind of task or work do you plan for that isn't design or playtesting? Emails is probably the main answer to that question. Answering incessant emails. No. I guess one thing is kind of like self-promotion, as best it can be said. You know, it's things like streaming, you know, posting on Twitter, checking things in Board Game Geek forums of my published games and trying to keep up with questions. I think it's those kind of slightly nebulous marketing kind of things, which I think are important, and like sort of trying to promote your releases in some sort of way. I consider that sort of work. I really need to make a new website, which is related to that. That's definitely work that isn't design or playtesting. All the stuff to try and get a game actually signed. You know, it's you have to, like, all the stuff about like just setting up with meetings with publishers, negotiating with publishers, reminding publishers about, you know, like, you've seen this game, what do you think, you know, and all that sort of stuff is also work. So it's a lot of just communication and emails and things like that, I would say. Those probably are the main tasks, and just some general organization. It's just general project management, I guess, which kind of takes up time. Like, it, you know, just remembering what you're supposed to be doing and trying to have an effective system. And I'm always kind of interested in making my systems better, which is to say that at the moment they're not particularly good. I think that's part of the, again, like, I like to think I am ideally a person of habit. I wonder whether I just think it's a goal that I will never reach. And I've never, because I always feel like one point my life will be in such a way that I'll have habits and I'll do things. And maybe I just never will. Maybe it's this goal. But I think having those routines helps me to have, you know, helps me with managing different projects and making sure I'm working on them. So I guess it would be, yeah. Alex says, I think the same about singing. If you're able to talk, you can learn how to sing. Oh yes, talking about art. Yeah, no, I agree too. And actually, singing, I really enjoy singing. On the other hand, I enjoyed music. You know, I grew up playing piano and saxophone, and I enjoyed that. And I keep that. That is another thing I wouldn't mind coming back to later on, or even some like composition. I did some musical theory as well, and so I have like some background in that, and I have enjoyed singing a lot. I've been in choirs before, so yeah, that is another part of my life. It could be interesting to get back into. I really enjoyed being part of a band. I was never really good at like saxophone. It's sort of comparing piano to saxophone. Piano was very solitary, but then when I got to play saxophone, you get to be in a big band, and even if you're not very good, you kind of have fun doing that. And I really enjoyed that. It would be kind of good to get back into that. Rory says, I think it's really beneficial for game designers to learn some graphic design principles. Absolutely. No, I completely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, maybe that'll be another thing, Rory. You come on and we'll talk about some graphic design things that need to be, or you should start streaming, Rory. You know, I'm sure a lot of people would be super interested. Do you know any streamers, Rory, by the way, or like graphic designers on Twitch or things like that? Anybody you watch? Or I guess that's a bit strange. Like, I mean, I guess I watch other game designers on Twitch, so it's maybe not so strange. Mandela, what was this about? Was this the artist comment, Mandela? I don't recognize the name, Boar, and I can't remember this art comment. I don't know where it's from. It's probably on Twitter somewhere. Yeah, I feel like my brain is full of these like anecdotes with no names. That is something I'm absolutely terrible at. I remember the content of something, but I never remember who said it, or like the name, or like the salient detail that will help someone find it again. Unfortunately, so sorry about that. Or he says, development is the thing I need to get better at. I'm very bad at using spreadsheets and data, and often just design by gut. Yeah, I think that's a fair point to kind of see that as something that you can work on. I would say that you don't always need spreadsheets and data. It really depends on the game, and obviously, like the simpler the game is, the less you need that, and the more you can kind of do it by gut. And I think also, like, your gut can be very close to what a spreadsheet does. Like with enough practice, I think when you play a certain number of games or you've designed a certain number of things, you do kind of I think you internalize a certain number of like mathematical principles without thinking of them as mathematical principles. Like even like a geometrical progression of like 1, 3, 6, 10, 15 for points things. Like, yes, there's a mathematical thing behind that, but really you do the same thing when you're playing, like, oh, but I need to be rewarding someone more for like more and more for doing this thing. That's not just, we kind of employ that kind of more mathematical thinking, I guess, and spreadsheet without knowing it. So yeah, definitely a good thing to work at, but also don't necessarily sell yourself too short, because I think maybe I'll throw in the other thing about we've been talking about being told you can't do things. Unfortunately, another thing I would say that is it seems the same thing is things like mathematics and numbers and sort of numerical literacy. And unfortunately, I think that's a huge problem in schooling, that a lot of children get told, well, there's kind of two factors as I understand it. One is, the children get told they're not good at maths, but the other problem is that often, unfortunately, like for younger age children, their teachers are often themselves not particularly comfortable with mathematics. There's very few like sort of STEM educated or like STEM specialized primary school teachers, for example, and that means you don't have that confidence teaching. I was, in some ways, I think I was really lucky. I had a few teachers very early on that really loved mathematics, but I really think everyone does have the ability to be able to work with numbers and do some amount of mathematics. But unfortunately, we again get painted into categories, which is a pity. Alex says, I only have training in musical composition, which has some adjacent skills in terms of crafting experience and producing something with usability. Oh yeah, no, I mean, as your picture shows, Alex. Yeah, but I can definitely see that well, a musical composition is, from what I remember when I did the musical theory and some very rudimentary compositions, very, very rudimentary. But there are similar things that you're trying to think about structure, and you've got to think about there are certain rules or norms you're following. How can you subvert those? How can you deliver an experience, as you say? I think it is super interesting. It'd be, it's now the stream is just telling me all these things I need to go and check and think about and look into, spend more time on Skillshare or something, I guess. Rob says, I've been cultivating skill experience in proofreading over the last few years. It doesn't feed directly into game design, but it is a kind of adjacent skill that is generally useful. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Have you done that through any through any course or like professional body or anything like that? It's something actually I am. I might do a little bit of. There's a potential that Therese might start doing more translation from Czech into English. And I guess if she did that, I would probably act as her proofreader. So it'd probably be good if I had a bit more training in it. So yeah, I'd be interested. Yeah, maybe if you do have any useful links, Rob, either share them here or if you DM me sometime, that would be great. Jay says, trying to learn to sell my idea, I guess. I see. In terms of things you're sort of working at. Yeah, graphic design is something I'd love to be really good at. So getting. Yeah, I think it's practice, and I think also the thing is that like every little bit you learn is useful. You don't have to there's not like a state where you don't know anything about graphic design and you flick a switch and suddenly you know everything. It's great. I think anything you can sort of so incrementally improve what you're doing, and that is seen immediately in the things you're making, the prototypes you're making. So I think that's super, super important. So I'm glad you go. And yeah, in terms of selling and signing it, yeah, it is work, and it is right now. It's also tough, I think, because I would say if you are lucky enough to able to go to conventions and can get meetings, I think that's always the easiest way in terms of like you meet people, and it's a lot easier when you're meeting them rather than emailing and all these sort of things. So yeah, hang into it as best you can, I guess, Jay. But hopefully it will get easier. Or better as things open up as well. And also, I think it's also hard pitching to publishers anyway right now, because I think publishers even don't know quite what they're doing, and their schedules are all a bit short as well. So I imagine it's a bit tricky in different ways. Yes, this is Rory. Rolled and Bones is Rory Muldoon. Is the Rory behind Scorer. So if you don't know each other, I think hopefully you can become Twitch friends now. Anthony and Rory, you can chat if you want. Oh, these are graphic design streamers. I don't follow any, but I'm sure they're out there. I'd like to experiment with streaming work one day. Yeah, I'd be super interested in that if you ever manage to do it. Yeah. Medda says, this was, you say you'd like to incorporate into a game map something you encountered in oh yes, Voronoi, sorry. So I'll try and find it actually. There's a fun kind of Voronoi maps maybe. But some people do interesting maps of like various things. Yeah, like for example, share screen. This should work, I hope. Oh no, it's. I can't see the damn thing. Sorry, this is all a bit useless. But basically, I'm trying to find it. Stop that. Sure. I can just do that. Like, so Voronoi basically it sort of divides two-dimensional or three-dimensional space. You have a series of like points, and you basically divide it into regions where, so if I take this point, everything in this blue region is closer to this point than any other point, basically. And that's what it does. So you can think of it like, and why I think about it with metros is kind of interesting. Like you could look at a map and you know whichever polygon you're in, you know which is your closest station, effectively. So yeah, so they're called Voronoi tessellations is the kind of the mathematical algorithm behind it. But you can apply it to all sorts of things. And people do fun kind of things like that. But I'd just like to play around with it and like sort of add an interesting graphic design thing so it could look like a poster kind of thing. So yeah, Voronoi is the thing there. Cool. Oh, okay. So yeah. So hopefully, well, I'll just have to have Mandela on or Rory. Sorry, too many people. I'll have to have Rory on sometime to chat about the game. Rory said it was okay. So this is Scorer, so Rory's first published design, I think. Right, Rory. It was okay, but I'm definitely getting more interested in the idea of self-publishing. Doing design and art and production inevitably makes me want to have more control over other stuff too. Yes, because I think, Rory, you were the same. You a bit like Peter earlier, you did the graphic design and the illustration and things like that for Scorer as well. Yeah, very cool. Oh gosh, I'm so behind on chat. Sorry, everyone. And that's the thing about answering questions and then people reply, which is great. But I'm trying to have 3 threads going on in my head at the time. Yeah, and when we announce our thing, Rory, then we'll show all of that off, I guess. Okay, CIEP. I'm going to write that down now. CIEP proofreading. Excellent. Thank you very much. Hi, Simon. How are you going? Speaking as a publisher, a lot of designers need to learn how to write better rule books. Yes, I just get, that's why I just design with Brett, because he just does all the rule books for me. No, it's slightly. I think I've got slightly better, but I'm not. Yeah, not at the level of Brett. Do you have any particular like things that you really notice as like a common thing that when that is poorly done in rule books that maybe folk might be interested in as sort of 1 or 2 quick points? Yeah, no, that's great. Oh, thank you for the link. Excellent. Trying to catch up with things. Yeah, we all rule writing is tough. I think there's but it's just really it's practice to a certain degree, and I think getting good feedback and just getting other people to read it. I think I probably am bad at this as well. That I will often be writing a rule book because I need to send it to a publisher. But really, you should be thinking about writing a rule book and then getting feedback and showing other people all before you show it to a publisher, or before you use it as a pitch, sort of thing. But I'm not so very good at that. Yeah. Oh, there's an Ann Jones rulebook manual. Okay, I will have a. Oh yes, I think maybe I saw. Oh, from Ann Jones at Cars or Die. Yeah, I will. That is true, actually. There is a rule book. No, okay, that link doesn't work. Unfortunately, she has a link. I'm just trying to. Oh, well, anyway. Yeah, we can see. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there's the link from Rob. Thanks very much, Rob. Trying to think. Jay, sorry about regarding math spreadsheets. I found that counting stuff quite useful. It sounds a bit stupid, but helps giving overview. Do you mean in terms of designing, or sorry, I missed the context of that a little bit. Rob recommends an Ann Jones toolkit, and a meta move. I actually proofread a version of it, so I got a good preview, and there's loads of good stuff in it. Oh, great. Okay, well, I definitely will. Yeah, sorry. Now I really should just pick up. Where is the rule book toolkit? This must be it. Oh yeah. Okay, hold on. Share screen. So this is it, the rulebook toolkit. So, has lots of, I mean, it looks quite interesting. And also some videos, which is interesting. So yeah, no, it's really cool. And reasonably, not too bad, £25. So yeah, no, thanks for the recommendation. Yeah, and everyone check that out. Alex says, seeing the reception Dutch Yoda has had for his print play. That's right. He did have an interesting print play Kickstarter. Makes me wonder if that could be the next move for one of my games. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's broadly similar to some of the things that Rory and I are thinking about, like what's the sort of the space between like a digital print and play and a published game. And I feel like there's a lot of space in the middle there that can be explored, sort of thing. Yeah, and I agree. Like print and play Kickstarters, I think, finding a way to, because I think there is a section of the community that would happily support with a couple of pounds. And that also, from my point of view, I think, like, I would probably design more print and plays and things like that. Somebody released just recently a video of Good Little Martian, one of the Good Little Games, which are free print plays that Brett and I did, and said some really nice things about it. And they said, oh, it'd be great if there was more content or it's a bit harder. And I was like, yeah, I would love to revisit those games, but it's just so hard to, it's harder to justify when you just can't get any money for it, like, it shouldn't all be driven by money, but there's a practical part of all of that, I guess. And knowing that there's a way to maybe recoup a little bit of the cost of the time spent in doing it, and maybe lets you do some cool art or things like that, it'd be really, really great. So yeah, that's definitely where my head is at. And I'm really excited about that. I think it's a really cool new space to be exploring, definitely. Simon said, Brett Gilbert, talking about better at neither two. I think following a standard structure is good. A lot of people try and reinvent the wheel. I'm writing a blog about it for Alicat, but it's been on my to-do list for months. Okay. So yeah, I think having a structure, I do use a template that's pretty much all the same. It's always like introduction, components and setup, goal of the game, how to play, end of the game, things like that. So having that kind of structure. So maybe I can do that on a stream and go through that kind of template that I use. And designers rarely use examples. Yeah, no, that's true. And it is the hardest thing, because it often requires, a bit of more graphics. It's harder to do with text. But I would agree that if you can get okay with a sort of a simple, some simple graphics or icons, that can really help in terms of like showing, there are definitely some things where examples really, really help. So yeah, maybe I can show that can be a future stream at some point, but we'll see how that goes. And everyone forgets components too. Yeah, so that's components and setup always get it. I mean, for me, sometimes when I'm designing and sometimes I'll be writing a rule set very early on in the design process, and it actually helps me think about, like, what do I need? What are the things in this game? How big is it really? So that can be useful to sort of think about that as well. Anyway, we are back to this is the end of the hour. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining, and thank you so much for the great questions. The really great discussions. It's been super interesting, and lots of cool things to think about from music and graphic design and rule book writing. But hopefully it was useful for everyone. I hope everyone has a fantastic day, whatever you're up to. And I'll be back next week, as always, same time, same place. We will go a raiding to someone. I will look at who we can raid. We can go and see some music. Holly Marie, I don't know. There are people I followed for some reason, but we can go out and check what they're playing. If anyone else has a recommendation of raiding, let me know in the next minute or so. Hey, Tacheta, you got a good shout out for your print and play Kickstarter, so congrats on that. Definitely be interested to chat more about what your experience has been doing that in a future time. Manila says, I've previously worked as a proofreader, so I had some confidence in writing rule books, but then had quite a few aha moments when publishers have rewritten things. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes you just need that external. I mean, and it's an iterative process. We all try and do the best thing we can, but we're never going to know. You can't always guess. Sorry, it's an iterative process. You don't have to get it right the first time, but the closer you can get it is a good thing. Obviously, that helps for everybody. Cool. All right. Well, we'll pop over and see Holly. So some nice music for the morning. Have a great week, everybody, and yeah, I'll catch you all next time. But thanks very much. Let's head over. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just have a. Hold on. No, it's dropped off my thing. Actually, yeah, I'm actually having a bit of problem. So, Paulacino. I don't know Paulacino. Paulacino. Let's have a look. Hi, some video gaming. Oh, is this like Paul is in from Shut Up and Sit Down, maybe? No, anyway. Anyway, all right. Take care, everyone. Let's try this out and see how it goes. All right. Off we go. All right. Ciao. Bye, bro.